Let's go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to our webinar. I am Amy Kuth, a patient educator with the Stephen and Barbara Slaggie Family Cancer Education Center at Mayo Clinic, and I'll be moderating this session. This is part one of our 5-part Cancer and Spiritual Wellbeing webinar series. The topic for today's webinar is engaging in spirituality while dealing with cancer. We want people on this webinar to know that this session is being recorded, so individuals who are not able to join us for this live session can watch it later. For those who would like to view this webinar again, the recording takes about 3 days to be edited and put on the Video Library tab on our Cancer Education page on Mayo Clinic Connect. Mayo Clinic Connect is a digital platform where patients, family members, and caregivers can connect, get evidence-based information, and get access to information about classes and webinars that our center offers. We encourage you to follow our cancer education blog on Mayo Clinic Connect so you can stay up to date on our educational opportunities. I'm going to put a link to our cancer education blog in the chat, and I will do that right now so you have it. You should see it come across there. I also want to let you know that we will take questions at the end of the session. So if you have questions related to today's webinar topic, please type them into the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. All right, so I will now hand it over to Dan Johnson, who is one of our chaplains at Mayo Clinic, who will be giving the presentation today.
Thank you, Amy. And I want to say thank you to everybody who is joining us here from the Cancer Connection. It's a privilege to be with you. And as you're going through your cancer journey, as you're going through medical situations you're going through, I invite you to consider spirituality and consider that it's part of our journey too. It is not something that is always exactly the same every second of every day, and it changes. I'm going to be talking to people of all different backgrounds, all different faiths, all different ideas. And I want to just separate a couple words. One is religion, and that can tie into the community that you're involved with, holy books or holy book, worship, rituals, holy days, holidays, the name we use for God, higher power, nature, however we want to say that. Spirituality is, it's more individual. It may or may not involve religion, and it's what gives you peace and a way of finding peace. And at this point, I'm gonna just want to say one more thing about this. Everybody's spirituality is totally different. And as you're going through your cancer journey, you might find yourself leaning back on things you learned as a child. You might find yourself reaching out for things that are different than what you're used to. You might find yourself supported by friends who are in agreement. Some kind of need a little bit of private space to deal with their own spirituality and work that out and how that'll be. And some people need a group. And so as I talk today, I invite you to think about what parts of what I say apply to you. Not everything that I say will be something you say, yeah, Chaplain Dan, I appreciate that. That's great. Some of it you'll say, get on with it, Dan. Let's go to the next part. But there's an aspect in which I do believe that spirituality can be very meaningful to us when we deal with any medical kinds of things. But today I'm especially thinking about cancer and how we're surprised by cancer when we first hear about it, how we are have to kind of accept that we're dealing with it and then get the proper treatments and find the support that we need. There's a lot of different phases of cancer, and there's a lot of different changes that happen in our spirituality. I'm going to ask Amy if you would put up our first slide, and I want to just kind of demonstrate this with a picture. Spirituality, we're going to go to our next picture. Sorry, Amy, our next slide. Spirituality is a process through which we're transformed, or it's a journey that we're on that changes with the seasons, with the times, with the places. But it can transform us and I'm starting at the top, with our experiences with God or higher power and our experiences with ourselves. It can change us. It can transform us in our experiences with others, families, and people around us. It can transform us in our understanding with God, ourselves, and others. It can transform us in our relationships with God, ourselves, with others. And recognizing that this is a process and this is transformation that will happen. When people are dealing with cancer, you might find that there are certain relationships that are very, very important to you today, and maybe might not have been important to you 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You might find that your understanding of God is different today than it was 10 or 15 years ago, and it might be different 5 years from now. But it transforms us. And I want to say we kind of want to keep things the way they are. We usually want to try to do that. But when we're going through situations that are changing, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, cancer, different stages, different diagnosis, different, like feeling relieved that it's gone into remission. We have all kinds of different experiences with cancer. And I believe this, that we have all kinds of different experiences with our spirituality, especially as we're going through such a changing time in life. Some spiritual changes that might have taken 20 years might be happening in 2 years or 2 months. Some of our relationship with other people might be changing drastically, and we have a greater appreciation for some than others. But it is something that transforms, and we are transformed, and not to be afraid of that, but to work with it in the process and kind of see what happens. I'm going to ask us to go back to the other slide. Amy, if you could move us to the slide with the bridge in it. This is a beautiful picture. And on the left, you've got the train tracks right in between. Notice there's a train on there. That may or may not have been photoshopped into there. I'm not quite sure. But the train on the tracks can go from the left side of the river to the right side of the river. It can be deeply into the right side, or it could be deeply into the left side. But notice it can kind of go back and forth. I tried to figure out which way that train itself was going, and it kind of could be either way. Notice the river in the middle and kind of the archway. I'm going to talk about this picture, and I want you to kind of hold this in your mind. And you might want a piece of paper and pen or pencil in front of you. And you might be the kind of person who just likes to think about it as we go along, and just process it internally too. So I'm going to go ahead, and I might ask Amy just to close this picture out, but kind of keep in mind a bridge with two sides. That's probably what we need for today. If you think about the left side of that bridge, there's land and there's trees, and it's snow-covered trees on both sides. Today, I kind of wished it was green leaves on both sides, but it is what it is in that picture. And sometimes we go through some real difficult times, difficult days in our life. And I want you to think about, what kind of emotions do you have during these difficult times, these difficult moments in life? I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to kind of think about, what are difficult days like for you? What kind of emotions are you having? If you want to write them down, you can. If you want to just think about it for 30 seconds, that's okay too. on a difficult day, and I'm not quite sure what you thought about or what you wrote down, but on a difficult day, one of the things that we know is that um, some people on those days, they feel unmotivated, they feel maybe angry. On a difficult day, they might feel sadness, they might feel um, irritability, anxious, fear, might even feel rage. Maybe they feel lonely. Maybe they feel cut off. Maybe they feel unloved or they're irritable. Um, maybe on a bad day, they feel impulsive, maybe even invisible, almost like nobody even knows they're there or they feel forgotten. And those are kind of difficult days. On the other side of that bridge, and I'm thinking about the right side of the bridge, are good days for us. Um, and I think about what kind of emotions, when you're having a really good day, when you're having things are just going the right direction, what are some of the emotions that you might have on a good day? It might be a little bit trickier for us to think about those kind of emotions that come up, but I'm just going to take about 30 seconds and I want you to think about on a good day, when things are going well and you feel connected, what kind of feelings do you have during that time? So I'm not sure what you wrote down, but I'm going to share some, as I've taught this class before, some ideas that people have stated in a classroom when I'm able to get some verbal feedback, and I might put this up on a board. But during a good day, some people might feel peaceful, they might feel content, they might feel joyful, they might feel lighthearted, they might feel confident, they might be inquisitive and want to learn something more. They might feel generous and open in heart and mind. They might feel like they have got some real meaning and some real purpose in life, and there's things that they want to accomplish or experience. They might feel flexible. Um, they might feel engaged with life. They might be proud of their accomplishments they've done in their lifetime in the last few years, and when they're younger. Um, they can be compassionate towards themselves and with others. I think about that's kind of like the opposite side of the river is the things that we go through on a difficult day and different kinds of emotions that we have. And I think that the connection, that bridge in between those, the good days and the difficult days, the bridge and what's underneath that bridge is the river that's going through there. And I want us to think about this for a minute. What are some things in your life that help you have lasting peace and joy? Um, they might be beliefs, they might be behaviors, they might be belonging to different groups, whatever. But what are some things that bring you more than just a laugh, a quick joke, but what are some things that bring you peace and comfort, peace and joy? I'm going to give you 30 seconds or so to think about things that give you lasting peace and joy. Sometimes it's difficult to think of these kinds of things, but I'm gonna share what some other people have shared kind of down through the years, and maybe it'll trigger something within you. Said, yeah, that helps me too. That gives me joy. And I would like to say this: if I could just say like one prayer, and that would keep me good for life, and I wouldn't ever be having a difficult day ever again, that'd be really nice. But mostly, what happens is we string some of these things together and repeat the same type of things, and it helps to give us that sense of lasting joy and peace. But some of the things that help give us some joy and peace could be dancing or singing or some type of music or some type of art can help give people some peace and some just kind of put them in a good spot. Another thing might be writing. For some people, it's reading books. Other people might be talking with friends, hanging out with relatives that you love, um, and that you find peace from. And there's people who give us energy in life, and there's some people that kind of take some energy in life. But if we surround ourselves with the people who give us the energy in life, that helps build us up. For some people, it's being around their kids or their grandkids. Um, for some people, it is fishing or going outside or seeing the sunrise or the sunset. Could be hearing the laughter of little kids playing. It could be pets. It could be maybe going to a church, a synagogue, um, or a mosque. It could be hanging out with people who have been meaningful throughout your life. Um, these are the kinds of things that give us lasting peace and joy. And when we think about that whole list I just talked about in the middle, when we are engaged in those types of activities, it can help us to move from a difficult day and then choosing to engage with people who fill our soul, engage with whether it's gardening or whether it's planting or whether it's um, doing things that help build your spirit up, help move us into better days and good days. And like I said, it's no one thing can do that for you, but it's usually a kind of a conglomeration of good things that help you. Once again, we're all different. If you're an introvert and I say, you have to come to a party with me, there's going to be 50 people in the house and you have to come with me because then you'll have joy. You'll be like, Chaplain Dan, did you hear I'm an introvert? I don't like big groups, right? Um, and also, if I told someone who loves to be with people, hey, just be by yourself for a while, then you'll find lasting peace and joy. It just wouldn't work, right? We need to do what ministers and fills our own cup, things that help lift us up, and to be around people that encourage us to be able to help make those connections. One of the things I think about is that when we're going through life, it's easy to disconnect from the things that give us meaning and purpose in life. It's easy to just throw all of our beliefs out the window when we hear the word cancer. There's no hope. I'm hopeless. Um, it's easy to feel like, well, we don't belong in society. But the truth is, we are needed and even needed more than ever. People have a great appreciation for us, and we don't even realize the difference that we make. But we have to deliberately choose to connect with those things. If we just pull ourselves back and don't choose to connect, and it might be for you just connecting with one person at a time. It might be disconnecting, if you're an introvert, disconnecting from some big group events so that you can just be by yourself and enjoy sitting there reading a book and being by yourself. I'm a bit of an extrovert. My wife is a bit of an introvert, and she fills her bucket just being quiet, reading a book, just being by herself. Everybody's things that give them peace and joy are different. And so I don't want you to think that you have to be like anybody else's exactly. But the issue about making that connection is important. I have a cell phone right here, and it's a funny thing, the cell phone, if I don't connect it to something, the batteries don't work and I can't use the cell phone. But if I take my cord and I plug it into the cell phone, I can use the cell phone to do things on the computer. I can send texts. I can look at pictures. I can call my family. but I need to keep that connection there or connect to it periodically in order for the batteries to do what they need to do. That's kind of how it is with our spirituality. If we don't connect with the things that give us life and purpose and meaning and joy, if we don't do that, we're accidentally going to just let our batteries run down, and then we need to do something to bring them charged up. It is rare for my cell phone, and I guess for teenagers it never ever happens, but it is rare for my cell phone to totally die. I have a charger in my truck, I have a charger at my desk, I have a charger at home, and I charge it all those different places. And I think about our spirituality a little bit like a cell phone. To connect what gives you meaning, purpose, and joy is something that's important to do in order to keep our batteries up. Cancer, although it is something that changes our life, doesn't steal us from the joys of life in all the ways that we think it can. We can always have those connections with people. We might not be able to go run or jog with them, but we can sit and listen to stories and tell stories. We might not have a lot of energy to be able to go fishing, but we can remember fishing stories with buddies. We might not have the energy to sew, but we can hold cloth in our hands and feel what it feels like in our hands. Might not be able to go to a religious gathering, but you might be able to pray. You might be able to connect with other people that you respect spiritually. It's a journey, and some things that charge you, they might need adjustments. And that's okay to have those adjustments and to make them and to be deliberate about them. I enjoy the outdoors. And sometimes for physical reasons within my family, I'm not able to go out in the wilds of the wilderness, but I can have a campfire in my backyard and light some candles at the kitchen table. And there's things that we can do that aren't maybe what we used to do, but we can still find joy in those little moments along the way. I just wanted to share some of those ideas about spirituality in the middle of our cancer. And I wonder if there's anybody that has any questions at this time.
All right. Thank you, Dan, for that wonderful presentation. So as Dan mentioned, we'll now move into our question and answer portion of the presentation. You really gave us a lot of things to think about there, and I really appreciated the analogy of the cell phone battery. That was something that I really related to. As I'm looking at my cell phone right now, it's down to 17%, so I might have to recharge myself. So we will take some time here to answer some questions. You can, if you have a question, again, just put your question into the Q&A down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So let me take a peek here to see what we have. Okay, so one question here. My husband has cancer and has been struggling with his faith ever since his diagnosis. And this person says that their connection to God or a higher power has become stronger with this experience, but my husband's connection, the one with cancer, is broken. Do you have any recommendations for how I might be able to help him with his spirituality? And do you think he'll get it back?
Sometimes we think our loved ones have lost their spirituality, and really what they're doing is they're going through a struggle with God. And we, as we go through life, we live our lives the best we can. I believe most humans do. And we live our life the best we can. And at the end, we sort of have certain expectations, like I'm going to live to be 104, die at a mountaintop in a tent, right? That we kind of think that might be how we end. And then when it's not what we expect, we tend to be frustrated and a little bit angry, especially if it comes earlier than we expect. We just have this, we all have our imaginary ending. right, to our life. And when it comes sooner than we wanted and we feel hampered by what we can do, and especially some people like to really do things to feel important, to feel connected, to feel valued. I think if somebody, if they can see that they are valued for who they are right there in that situation, that's important. So I think revaluing your husband is something that you can do. I think that uh, people struggle with their spirituality more out of missed expectations than anything else. And so they had an expectation that God would have the ending be like so and so. And now here it is. And it's not what they expected. And sometimes we want things the way we want them. And when things don't go our way, we tend to get angry with God. And so some people would hold on to God or nature or higher power, knows things better than we do. And can we trust that God like we have trusted them in the past? Or can they rethink about how we think about God? And some people think if I do this and this and this, God will do this and this and this. And God probably is not quite as much like put in and get out as God loves us, even though we're going through difficult times. So revalue him. I would say this to you, revalue him and help him to see that God has been there for him in the past and that maybe God is there in ways that he's not expecting God to be there. So that's what I might say to you. And I know that's a very short answer and it's a deeper question. But I don't think just because he's angry doesn't mean that he has lost faith with God. It just means that right now he's angry. And those are two different things.
Wonderful. Thank you. We do have a few other questions here. This person says, great job, Chaplain Dan. Chaplain Gary here from Mayo in Mankato. Loved
Hey,
the cell
Gary.
Loved the cell phone illustration. Any generic stories that you can share on how chaplains have helped a cancer patient to have new hope? And if you can't think of anything on the spot, he says that is okay.
So I really do like the word revalue our life. So this is generic. Okay. Let's say that a guy's been a trucker all of his life, put in 5 million miles, right? There's people that actually do that. That's amazing to me. But they have found their purpose in the fact that they are delivering things to America that they need. When you can't deliver, we tend to lose our purpose in life. But what if we could say that now we are the holders of the family stories? What if we could say that we are now the ones who are going to be the pillars for the grandchildren that can be advising them? Maybe we can be the source of wisdom for the family, not just the trucker, but there's a greater picture of who we are as people. And I will say that farmers struggle with this too when they can't get out in the plow. That's a discouraging moment for them. But if they can realize that they are a friend, a father, a, a mother, that they are a cousin, an uncle, an aunt, that they are a child of God, that they are a neighbor, and that they have so many more roles than just the primary place they worked. That's something that I help people find meaning in life and spirituality and get away from just defining them as their job. Preachers might have this problem too. Just saying.
All right, thank you. Couple other questions.
Sure.
How do I define my beliefs or spirituality on an advance directive when I don't believe in God? I put atheist, but that's not quite how I feel and don't want to just put none.
Electronically, if that's a question, I know that Mayo has now put in the idea of spiritual, not religious. And I'm finding a lot of people fit into that category. They believe that God's out there somehow and they pray sometimes and they see that God's doing something sometimes, but they don't see it as Judaism, Muslim, Christian, anything organized. And so I think if you put down that you're spiritual, not religious, I think that that's maybe a way of being able to put that down there. Or my own personal beliefs, have my own personal beliefs about God. And it's not necessarily, when I hear those phrases, I know that I'm not going to talk to someone who's got like Christian beliefs, but I'm going to talk to somebody who believes that there's a higher power. I hope that answers that question.
A great suggestion. Thank you. All right. Looks like we have Gary responded, by the way. Thanks, Dan. Fantastic. And we have another question here. I have had immediate relaxation in my faith upon diagnosis. I struggled with loss of control on the science side. I had my faith in God and the Holy Spirit. I had to let go of control to doctors and follow their path. Has anyone struggled with the loss of control of themselves to our doctors? My trust and faith in God did not falter, and I never felt afraid.
We kind of like to be in control of our own life, right? And I can appreciate that idea that now I have to trust people because I'm in deeper water than I've ever been before. And ultimately, your trust is in God still, and I agree with that. For this person who asked this question, trusting God and trusting doctors are not opposites. You can trust doctors and God, and it is difficult to say, okay, I'm going to trust for 3 more treatments, even though I feel horrible at the end. It's difficult to trust that. There does come a time when we would say that we'd rather be kept comfortable than have treatments. And I think that that's an honest conversation to have with people around you and with doctors. So you're not giving full control of your life to doctors, and you still have authority, but they are recommending to you best treatment practices that will help you to get either the cancer in remission or to be able to get rid of it altogether. But I think that you have the ability to set limits, and you have to recognize that there are outcomes that may not be what you wish they were from a medical perspective. And spiritually, things can be what they are, but just know that you're not giving full control up because you still have a voice in this.
Very well said, Dan. Thank you. All right, it doesn't look like we have any more questions at this time, so we will go ahead and close the session out. So I would like to thank everyone for participating, and you can click on the link that we shared in the chat earlier to learn about upcoming classes and webinars that we are offering, and also to view this recording once it is posted in our video library. When this webinar has ended, you will be prompted to take a quick survey. We appreciate your willingness to fill out the survey, as your feedback is really helpful to ensure that we're offering educational opportunities that are valuable to you. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.